You remember that moment when you finally got the raise or landed that better paying job? That feeling was incredible, right? You did the mental math in your head. Okay, an extra $800 a month. That's going to change everything. I can finally get ahead, build some savings, stop stressing about money every single week. And for like 2 months, maybe 3, it did feel different. You had a little more breathing room. You could say yes to dinner without checking your bank account first. You weren't quite as stressed. But then, somehow, weirdly, things just went back to normal. The extra money disappeared into your life like water into sand, and 6 months later, you're in basically the same financial position you were before the raise. Maybe you're making $5,000 or $10,000 more per year now, but you're just as broke, still living paycheck to paycheck, still stressed about money, still wondering where it all goes. My name is Frank, and I spend way too much time thinking about personal finance, behavioral psychology, and why people can double their income and still feel broke. And honestly, this phenomenon used to drive me crazy because it seems so counterintuitive. Like, how is it possible that making significantly more money doesn't actually improve your financial situation? The math should work, right? More income equals better finances. Except it doesn't. Not for most people. And before we go deeper, if this is resonating with you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. It helps more people find this content, and it tells me you want more of these honest conversations about money. Because what I want to talk about today is why more money doesn't fix being broke, and more importantly, what actually does. Because once you understand what's really happening, once you see the pattern, you can break it. And that's when your financial life actually changes, regardless of how much you're making. The lifestyle inflation trap. Here's what happens, and I'm willing to bet this is going to sound familiar. You get that raise or that new job. Let's say you're going from $50,000 a year to $60,000. That's an extra $10,000 or about $625 a month after taxes. For the first month or two, that money just kind of accumulates. Maybe you pay down a credit card a little. Maybe your checking account balance is higher than usual. You feel good. You feel like you're finally getting somewhere. But then, gradually, almost imperceptibly, your spending starts to adjust. You move to a nicer apartment because, hey, you can afford an extra $200 a month in rent now, and you deserve a better place. You upgrade your car because that old one was getting unreliable, and the payment is only $300 a month. You start eating out more because you're making more money, and you don't have to be so strict about cooking at home. You upgrade your phone plan, your streaming subscriptions, your gym membership. You buy nicer clothes because you need to look professional at your new job. None of these decisions feel extravagant in the moment. They all feel reasonable, justified, earned. But when you add them all up, that $625 a month is gone, completely absorbed into a slightly upgraded lifestyle. And here's the kicker. You don't even feel that much better. The nicer apartment is nice, sure, but after a month, you're used to it, and it's just where you live. The new car is exciting for a week, then it's just transportation. The restaurants, the subscriptions, the stuff, it all fades into the background of your life. This is lifestyle inflation, and it's the primary reason why making more money doesn't fix being broke. Your expenses rise to meet your income every single time, unless you actively, consciously prevent it from happening. And the brutal part, once your lifestyle inflates, it's incredibly hard to deflate it. Those new expenses become your new normal, your new baseline. The idea of going back to your old apartment or your old car or your old way of living feels like going backward, like failing, even though that lifestyle was perfectly fine when it was all you could afford. The money management problem doesn't disappear. Here's something nobody wants to hear. If you're bad at managing $50,000, you'll be bad at managing $100,000. The amount doesn't matter if the habits don't change. Being broke isn't usually about not having enough money. I mean, yes, there are people who genuinely don't earn enough to cover basic necessities, and that's a real problem. But for most people watching this video, that's not the situation. For most people, being broke is a management problem, not an income problem. If you don't have a budget, making more money won't suddenly make you start budgeting. If you're impulsive with spending, making more money just means you'll make bigger impulse purchases.
If you're not tracking where your money goes, making more money just means more money will disappear without you knowing where it goes. I learned this the hard way. When I was making $45,000 a year, I was always broke. I blamed my salary. I thought if I could just make $60,000, everything would be fine. Then I got a new job making $65,000, and within a year, I was still broke. Same stress, same anxiety, same scrambling at the end of the month. The only difference was I had nicer stuff to show for it. The problem wasn't my income. It was that I had no system, no plan, no discipline around money. I spent reactively, not intentionally. I said yes to everything that seemed fun or convenient in the moment without thinking about the cumulative effect. And when you operate that way, it doesn't matter if you make $50,000 or $150,000. You'll always be broke because you'll always spend everything you make. The psychological aspect of earning treats. There's this weird psychological trick we play on ourselves, and it goes like this. I work hard, I deserve this. You got a promotion, you deserve a vacation. You had a tough week, you deserve that expensive dinner. You hit a milestone, you deserve a new gadget, new clothes, a night out, whatever. And all of that is true, by the way. You do work hard. You probably do deserve nice things. But here's the problem. When I deserve this becomes your justification for every purchase, you end up spending everything you make on the things you've decided you deserve. There's no money left for the things that actually matter: savings, investments, financial security, freedom. And the more you make, the more you feel like you deserve. Someone making $50,000 might feel like they deserve a $30 dinner occasionally. Someone making $100,000 might feel like they deserve a $100 dinner. Someone making $200,000 might feel like they deserve a $300 dinner. The percentage of income stays the same or even goes up, which means the actual financial outcome doesn't improve. This is why you see people making six figures who are still living paycheck to paycheck, still stressed about money. They're not buying yachts or mansions, they're just buying a lot of things they feel they've earned through their hard work. Better restaurants, better vacations, better cars, better everything. And all of it is reasonable when viewed individually, but collectively it adds up to spending everything they make. The wealthy people I know, the ones that actually built significant net worth, they didn't fall into this trap. They separated their self-worth from their spending. They didn't need to prove their success through consumption. They could make $150,000 and still live on $60,000 because they understood that wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. Fixed costs versus variable costs. Let me explain something that changed how I think about money entirely: the difference between fixed costs and variable costs, and why this matters when you get a raise. Fixed costs are things like rent, car payments, insurance, loan payments, things that are the same every month and hard to change quickly. Variable costs are things like groceries, eating out, entertainment, shopping, things that fluctuate and you have more control over. When people get raises, they tend to increase their fixed costs. They move to a more expensive apartment, buy a nicer car, upgrade their phone plan. These decisions lock in higher spending for months or years. You can't just decide one month that you don't feel like paying rent or making a car payment. The problem is that life is unpredictable. You might get laid off, you might have a medical emergency, you might need to take a pay cut to switch careers. And when any of that happens, those high fixed costs become anchors that drag you under. You can cut back on restaurants and entertainment, but you can't easily get out of a lease or a car loan. This is why the smartest financial move when you get a raise is to not increase your fixed costs at all. Keep the same apartment, keep the same car, keep the same baseline expenses. Let that extra income go to savings, investments, or debt payoff. And yes, you can increase your variable spending a little, enjoy nicer experiences, better food, whatever brings you joy. But don't lock yourself into higher fixed costs. Because here's what happens when you do it right. You make $50,000, you live on $40,000, and you save and invest $10,000. You get a raise to $60,000, you're still living on $40,000, now you're saving and investing $20,000. Your lifestyle stays comfortable but stable, and your wealth grows exponentially. That's the path to actual financial security. The comparison game and social pressure. Let's be honest about something uncomfortable. A lot of our spending is driven by comparison. We look at what our friends have, what our coworkers have, what people on social media have, and we feel like we need to keep up. You get promoted, you start making more money, and suddenly you're around people who make more money. And they dress nicer, drive nicer cars, live in nicer places, take nicer vacations. And without even consciously realizing it, you start to feel like you need to match that, like you need to look the part. This is especially true in certain careers. If you work in law or finance or tech, there's often this unspoken expectation that you'll have a certain lifestyle. And when everyone around you is driving luxury cars and wearing expensive clothes, keeping your paid-off Honda and your Target wardrobe feels embarrassing, even though it's objectively the smarter financial decision. I had a friend who got a job at a prestigious consulting firm making great money,
And within a year, he was broke. Not because he was reckless, but because he felt pressure to look successful. He bought suits he couldn't really afford, leased a car he didn't need, moved to an expensive apartment near the office. He thought he was making investments in his career and his image, but really, he was just spending money to impress people who didn't care. The hardest part of building wealth is being willing to look less successful than you could look. It's being okay driving a modest car when you could afford a luxury one. It's being okay living in a normal apartment when you could afford a fancy one. It's resisting the urge to signal your income through your consumption. Because the people who actually become wealthy, they're the ones who are comfortable looking middle class even when they're not. They'd rather be rich than look rich. What actually fixes being broke? Okay, so if more money doesn't fix being broke, what does? The answer is pretty simple, but it's not easy. You need to fundamentally change your relationship with money and spending. First, you need to track everything, and I mean everything. Every dollar that comes in, every dollar that goes out. Not to judge yourself, not to feel guilty, just to understand. Because you can't fix a problem you don't understand, and most people have no idea where their money actually goes. Second, you need a budget. Not a restrictive, miserable budget where you can't enjoy anything, just a plan for your money. You decide in advance where it's going to go. Savings, investments, rent, groceries, fun money, whatever. And then you stick to the plan. The budget gives you permission to spend on the things you've decided matter while preventing mindless spending on things that don't. Third, you need to build the habit of paying yourself first. When that paycheck hits your account, the first thing that happens is money goes to savings and investments, automatically. Not whatever's left over at the end of the month, because there's never anything left over. You save first, then live on the rest. Fourth, you need to resist lifestyle inflation. When you get a raise, pretend you didn't. Keep living on your old income and direct the entire raise to savings, investments, or debt payoff. Do this for at least a year. Build some real financial momentum. Then, if you want, you can increase your lifestyle a little. But you'll probably find you don't even want to because having money in the bank feels better than having more stuff. And finally, you need to shift your mindset from "I deserve this" to "I'm building something." Every dollar you don't spend is a dollar that can work for you, grow for you, buy you freedom later. That's not deprivation, that's investing in your future self. So here's the truth. Making more money won't fix being broke if you don't fix the underlying behaviors and mindsets that made you broke in the first place. Lifestyle inflation will absorb any raise you get. Poor money management will persist regardless of income level. The psychological need to treat yourself will scale with your earnings. Comparison and social pressure will push you to spend more as you make more. And fixed costs will lock you into a lifestyle you can't afford if anything goes wrong. But the good news is that once you understand this, once you see the pattern, you can break it. You can be the person who gets a raise and actually gets ahead, who builds savings, investments, and real wealth instead of just accumulating nicer stuff and bigger expenses. It starts with awareness. It continues with discipline. It succeeds through consistency. Track your spending, build a budget, pay yourself first, resist lifestyle inflation, stop comparing yourself to others,
Make conscious, intentional decisions about money instead of reactive, emotional ones. Because here's what I've learned. Financial security isn't about how much you make. It's about the gap between what you make and what you spend and what you do with that gap. Someone making $60,000 and living on $45,000 is wealthier than someone making $150,000 and living on $155,000. The income number is less important than the behavior. So if you've been thinking that your next raise, your next promotion, your next job will finally fix your money problems, I need you to hear this. It won't. Not unless you change the underlying patterns. But if you do change those patterns, if you get intentional about money, you don't even need the raise to improve your financial life. You can do it right now with what you're already making. The choice is yours. You can keep playing the game where you make more and spend more and stay broke forever. Or you can break the cycle, build some discipline, and actually build wealth. I know which one leads to freedom. And I think you do too.